Well, welcome back, everybody. We're back with this painting again, the painting that we started on Tuesday. And I tried to change some of the lights in here to hopefully have a little less glare on here. But yeah, we're gonna jump right back to doing this painting. But one thing that we have to do before we start on here is I have to point out that I made a little bit of a mistake. See, that building over there, right here, we put in all the balcony stuff. You know, we sorted all that out, but your boy neglected to actually change the perspective on all of the balconies underneath, like these top two. I basically just went straight down with the ruler, forgetting the basic rule of perspective, which is as you get closer to the horizon, like this line is going to start getting shallower and shallower until you like get parallel with the horizon line. I didn't do any of that, so this looks wonky now. So today, at least to start this painting, to start with this painting, we're going to redo this. We're not going to redo the whole thing. We're just going to redo from like here down. Shouldn't take too long because I sort of explained the process of doing that last time. But this time we're going to do it right with the right perspective. So buckle in, strap in. It's going to be a fun time. So I'll zoom in again just so we can get tight in there. And let me see if I can adjust this light a little bit. See if that's going to wash it out too much. It might wash it out too much, so we'll just keep that there. All right, and first things first, of course, we got to get our palette together and our paints together, since that's kind of the whole point to this. And we got to get our paintbrush, which I'm going to grab a couple of brushes. A couple of flat brushes. We're going to get the thicker flat brush here. And then, where are you? There you are. We're going to get our thinner, smaller flat brush right here. Wash those off, get them dry. Got our palette, and the paint should still be wet because I covered it with saran wrap. And we're gonna get right to this. First things first, trying our best to match this background color. We're gonna cover up all the work we did last time. Which, it is a thing that happens sometimes with paintings, and I had actually planned to just like fix this yesterday off camera, but I thought, you know what? Nah. We'll put this whole process on camera, because sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes you forget the basic tenets of perspective, because you get so wrapped up in what you're doing. So what I am going to do though is I'm going to take a visual sort of snapshot of where I was putting these lights. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, okay. All right. Because basically we're covering all of this up and starting almost from scratch. But that's okay, And sometimes starting from scratch has added benefits. For instance, I could come across something that I feel I could have done better, and now I have a chance to, But if you're doing any sort of painting yourself or any sort of drawing, as frustrating as it may be, don't get down on yourself if you realize that you made what you perceive to be a mistake and you want to fix it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you're doing the kind of work where you want things to be a little askew, it doesn't really matter if the perspective's off, you know? For some people, what I did wouldn't be a mistake. But for the purposes of what I want to accomplish with this painting, which is this section being a little truer to life than just pure abstract, it's a mistake for me. So we're going to fix it. Because you can work with the happy little accidents and what have you. But this one, perspective is kind of important. So we're going to get it right. So we'll just wait a couple of minutes for that to dry, and then we'll go back in and map out our perspective again. And one thing I should mention, a tool that I found very useful is you'll find a good number of painters actually draw on the canvas. Sort of like draw and map out what it is that they want to do beforehand. And these white charcoal pencils, I found for as much of the dark stuff that I do, these are really, 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 really helpful. So I'll show you that with the perspective actually. Instead of painting the lines in, I'll draw a couple of them in just so you can see what it is and how you use it. I mean, it's pretty basic stuff. It's just, you know, using a pencil instead of your paintbrush, but it really shows up really well, and it doesn't affect the quality of the acrylic paint or anything. It's like painting over pencil marks. Like it doesn't hurt it at all. So we're just waiting for this to dry up a little because it's still tacky. And while we're waiting for that, I'll sort of like scoot the camera over here so we get a full view of the painting. And I'll sort of go over what my plans are, because the sky's done. I'm not doing anything more with the sky. The sky is completely done. That's all set to go. We're going to keep this. We're going to have trees here. We're still going to have this city skyline in the back with these other apartment buildings and this walking path here. This area, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to handle yet, like the number of trees that I'm going to have in the foreground versus the background. I'm not really quite sure how I'm going to handle that yet. There is going to be a walking path here though. I think I might have a person down here walking toward the apartments, or maybe away, I'm not sure. Maybe someone over here like running. That's what I'll do actually. I'll have a person like walking toward, or like standing here, and someone faintly over here with the fading light of the walkway. I'll have someone running this way. Yeah. And then of course we're gonna have our abstraction. I think most of the abstraction is actually going to be with all of this foreground skyline stuff, rather than doing a lot of abstraction with the sky, because I really, really, really like the depth of the sky. In all honesty, it's probably one of the better skies that I've painted before. So yeah, I think we're just gonna keep the sky the way it is. We're almost there. We're almost there. And if you're worried, like touching paint that's tacky, if you're gonna leave any fingerprints or anything, it doesn't matter so much for this part for me, because I'm gonna cover all this up anyway. It's all gonna get repainted, so yeah. So yeah, I realized after we ended the last stream that I made that mistake, and was gonna have to redo this. So, but that's okay. That's okay. Like I've said many times before, we've got plenty of time to finish this painting. There's no timeline on it. We're just gonna have fun with it and just go along with it. So I think that's dry enough for me to sort of explain what it is that I'm doing over here with the pencil. Which again, doesn't really take all that much explaining. But first, I have to go grab a spider, so I will be right back. All right, we're back. The joys of apartment living. Sometimes you gotta go take care of some bugs. I also realized that I got my renewal card for my car insurance. Okay. So basically what I was doing last time is I spaced it evenly, right? But again, that wouldn't work with the perspective, right? So now we're just going to kind of, I'm going to keep the spacing relatively the same in terms of like it's the width of this ruler. But this time we're going to angle it slightly and then just draw on that line. Now that's very faint because the paint is still wet, like a little bit wet, so a little bit got on the pencil. But actually the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to repaint this center line with the small brush. So we'll grab the colors we used last time, which is just black, white, and some yellow. Mix that together like so. And we'll just paint that center line back in. Gonna need a little bit more white, I think. Yeah, a little bit more white, but not too much. Because again, it's gonna naturally fade out as stuff comes off of as the paint runs out on the brush. It's gonna naturally kind of fade, and that'll give us a really nice natural fade out as we approach where the tree line is going to be. Just like so. Yeah. So now that we've got that in, yeah, it's a little faded, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. We're going to go back to fixing the perspective on this balcony area. So just clean off that brush, make sure that it doesn't dry out on us, and we'll see if this might be dry enough for the charcoal pencil to show up, the white charcoal pencil. So again, we're keeping the spacing in terms of it's approximately the width of this meter stick, but we're just angling it slightly downwards so that it's a shallower angle so that by the time we get down here, it's not going to be parallel, but it's not going to be parallel to the horizon line, but it's going to be more of a straight line. So let's see if that showed up. That showed up better. So I don't know if that's showing up on the camera slightly. I'll bring the camera in after I draw all these in so you can see up close what it is that I'm doing. So in between all of these things, I'm keeping the point over here the same, but I'm dropping the angle probably a good 4 or 5 millimeters each time. Or about, if you're more in the imperial system, about an eighth of an inch. To give us a nice shallow gradient on the perspective. Yeah. And now, as we move down, I'm going to actually start to make that even a little bit more shallow. It's like it'll just be a couple of millimeters difference between each drop. This is a very old meter stick, and it's kind of warped on me. So it likes to bend when I don't want it to bend. So we're still a ways away from being parallel, but it is a good thing that we're coming toward where the horizon, toward where the tree line is going to be, because I don't really want to go any shallower than where we're at right now. Okay, so that's basically how you use the white charcoal on there, and I'll bring the camera in just so you can see that a little easier. So yeah, it works really, really well in terms of like marking out stuff on a, because because like regular pencil won't show up nearly as well, and you probably want it to show up because it'll be easier to track. So let me zoom back in, and then we will start painting again. But before we start painting, I do have to go grab the most essential thing when working on stuff that's toward the middle of the canvas or lower. I have to grab my kneeling pillow so that my knees don't die while I'm trying to paint. All right, we're back. So let's throw that down there, and we will get to work with our paint. So in case anybody tunes in and they're wondering why we're redoing the thing that we did on the last stream. If you were here from the last stream, it's because I made a mistake with the perspective. So we're just fixing that perspective today. And hopefully it doesn't take too long so that we can move on to more interesting things. But this will also be interesting. So, here we go. So we're going to follow the same procedure as we did last time. Basically just painting in these areas. And we're going to start out doing all the balconies first again, and then we will move on to painting the background, like where the doors would be and all that. And we're just matching the angle of the lines that we drew in. Like so. Also, if people want to let me know if the music's too loud or anything like that. Also, if there's any basketball fans watching, if you want to give me your first impressions of this, the opening couple of days. I really wish I would have watched that Knicks Celtics game. That was that would have been interesting. The double overtime, and then the Knicks ended up winning. That's especially since the Knicks, God bless them, haven't been good for a long time. It's kind of exciting to see them be a good team again. So we're just filling in this balcony space again. And we're not going to rush, but hopefully this doesn't take too long because we've already done this. There we go. And move on to the next one. Same procedure. And as you can see, the paint goes right over the charcoal pencil. Doesn't leave any residue. It doesn't break up the paint at all. It's a really, really nice complementary medium, the white charcoal pencil, if you're drawing on stuff that's dark. And also, alternatively, drawing with charcoal, just regular charcoal, on a brighter canvas. Now that one you want to be a little bit lighter with it because it's really easy to cover up white charcoal with other colors because it's not going to blend all that much. But with black charcoal it might be a little bit more difficult to cover up black charcoal, so you might want to go a little bit lighter. And the one thing that we are trying to do is maintain an equal width for the balconies in every single one of these blocks. You know. And in case anybody was curious, because earlier I had to leave right quick to go um, get a spider. What we do is we cover the spider with like some sort of container and slip a card under it, and then release the spider outside. Because personally, I try my level best not to. I really try not to purposely kill spiders, and I don't purposely kill spiders. Every once and again, like, you'll accidentally like shift the thing and it'll like accidentally like crush it, or you might like accidentally step on a spider, but I don't kill spiders because spiders are my buddies. Spiders kill every other bug in the house. Spiders and house centipedes, actually. They both kill all the other bugs in the house. So they're my bros. But if someone were to come over, or like, you know, find them frightening or anything like that, then I just catch them and then release them outside so they can continue doing what they do. Because they're important, you know. I did the same thing with I had a house well, I didn't have a house. I don't have a house. But I was living in an apartment, a basement apartment that had mice. And I had absolutely no interest in getting mouse traps that actually killed the mice, because I mean, it's not the mice's fault that we built a house over the land that they had been living on, you know? They're just trying to get warm for the winter. And so I would just trap them in a live trap and then release them before I went into work. And I understand in some circumstances, like, you can't do that just because there's so many, but I try my best not to kill anything. Except mosquitoes. I guess I'm a hypocrite in that sense, but mosquitoes are... ugh. The nice thing about charcoal pencils too is it'll actually erase pretty well off of the canvas if you decide to erase it. So I'm just standing, giving my knees a little bit of a break. There we go. So this is already a quicker process than it was the last time we got together. Because we only got, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more blocks to do. And actually this bottom block I might not even do, because I think this is where the cutoff was for the tree line. So I'm just going to end up painting over that anyway. So we've got 5 more blocks to do, which isn't too bad. Not too bad at all. For being a half hour into the stream, not bad. Maybe one of these days I'll do instead of speed running, I'll do some speed painting. Or some speed drawing. Speed painting, speed drawing, that would be, I think that'd be interesting to watch. Especially since I was never really good at speed drawing when I was in school, because they would have you do those studies where it's like, okay, you've got a live model in the room, and you've got 30 seconds to just do a gesture draw of them. Just try to get their gestures in, and I was never really good at that. So it'd be fun to try and fail at that again, I think. Especially since, like, I am not good I am not good enough at any video game to speed run it at this time, so I'm not going to be streaming any video game speed runs. I might down the line pick like another day during the week, like maybe Saturday, maybe a Wednesday evening or something. I might stream some video game stuff, but I need the capture card first, so that I can actually get the video game footage, and I don't currently have a capture card. I can do that, but maybe one day we'll have art streams and video game streams. Because I've been playing a lot of Breath of the Wild's Master Mode recently, and a lot of Deltarune too. So the writing in Deltarune is so clever. I'm really enjoying that game so far. There we go. So any of you who are like able to see this real closely might see that we went like kind of over the lines with our paint here, but that's okay, because this section is actually going to get repainted when we do all the interiors of these balcony spaces. So it's okay that we went over a little bit, because that's going to be painted over with a darker paint. And even if it was lighter paint, like it would be dry by the time we got around to doing that, so we just paint right over it. I've mentioned on here multiple times before how I used to, when I was in high school and university, I really didn't like painting because I didn't have enough control over it, over the medium. And I really didn't like charcoal drawing either. Like, I would draw with pencil. One medium that I really, really enjoyed for a long, long time, was pencil crayons. I have so many drawings from that time in my life that was done in pencil crayon. At least in high school. In university, I stopped using pencil crayon nearly as much as I did in high school, but in high school, pencil crayons were my jam. I would get the big 64 color boxes and just go to town. It's a great time. But I haven't used pencil crayons in a very, very, very long time. I'm not sure if I said it in the last video, but if I didn't, I apologize. I'll say it in this one. I do really appreciate anybody who stops by the stream, just watches, even if it's just for a little bit. I do very much appreciate it. Y'all taking time out of your day to see me have some fun on a canvas. Alright, we only got 2 more, and then we can move on to actually filling these spaces. Again, just following this line that we drew in. One thing that I find is important when doing any sort of artwork is you can sort of sometimes get tunnel vision, especially if you're trying to do realism stuff. And I think it's important every once and again to sort of take a step back from the painting or the drawing or whatever you're working on, and just kind of view it from a distance, view it from how a lot of people would see it if it were hanging in a gallery or hanging in someone's house. You know, just take a step back from it, because you're seeing it from like your eyes, you're seeing it from like a foot away or closer, you know. And there can be some stuff, like especially like perspective stuff, that you miss being so up close. That's what happened with me with this painting. I missed that I was messing up the perspective because I didn't take a long enough step back, physically, and just like, you know, like take a break and like look at it and see like, okay, what am I doing? What can I change? You know, I think it's important to sort of take that step back and look at your stuff as you're working on it, because you can catch stuff that you're missing when you're so focused and up close like this. It's very easy to get discouraged when you're working on something, especially if you're overly critical of yourself, like so many of us are. And those step backs can also help with that. It may hurt some people. They might step back and be like, oh man, that looks awful, what am I doing? You know. And it's also hard not to think that way sometimes. But I find overall, for me, taking a step back and kind of visualizing, okay, what direction are we heading, is generally pretty helpful. Okay, so now we got all the apartment blocks in, and I think the perspective is much better this time. And I'll bring you guys in for a closer look. I'm just zooming out the camera first so that it's not all blurry. So now we've got a much more consistent perspective that actually matches what it would be in real life. So now we're going to mark out those areas again where we're going to put lights. So if I remember correctly, it was here and here, and then here and here, and then here and here. So I will go through that again, and just to remind myself, I'm going to get a little bit of white paint on my brush and just sort of paint in the ones that we're putting lights in. So here and here, here and here, and here and here. There we go. Good stuff. All right, so first things first, we're going to clean off our brush. Because even though we're going to go back and essentially use the same color, the same yellow tinted gray that we were using, and variations of that with the black and the white for the lights, you do want to keep your brush clean, because again, even though you're using the paint over and over again, within the bristles, like especially down near the base of the brush, basically the acrylic paint can dry and start to clump up, and the action of like brushing on the canvas can actually make those clumps break off, and then you've got like clumps of acrylic paint all over your canvas. That happens more with bigger brushes, but even with the smaller ones, that can happen. So you want to try to make sure you keep your brush clean, even if you're using the same color. If you've been using that brush for a while, it's not a bad idea to take a break and just clean it off and then get back to it, so that you're working with a cleaner brush. All right, so we're going to use the same process. And last time what I was doing was I was going into all of the cells that didn't have any lights on and just filling those in with the background space. So I think we're going to start with doing that again, just to get all those out of the way. because while they can be visually appealing, they're not as visually interesting. So we're gonna get them out of the way first. And for this, just for my own sake, I am gonna introduce a little bit more light. Hopefully that doesn't wash it out too badly. I don't think it did. So, go back in. And remembering that because our perspective has changed now, the perspective in all these cells, you have to match that perspective with the walls and the ceiling as well. Like, we can't do the same perspective up here as we did, like this angle on this, where the wall meets the, where the side wall meets the ceiling. We can't do that same angle on that down here, because it's not going to work. So we have to remain cognizant of that. I like that word, cognizant. I think I've said it in every single stream I've done so far. We have the wall go in like that, and then we'll grab some black. And like I said last time, even though, like I said, for a lot of times you don't want to use just flat black to, you know, paint something dark in a painting. When you're working in a space this small, using flat black is okay, because it's not as egregious, and it won't flatten out the image as a whole. Again, you mostly want to avoid using just a flat black if you're painting like a large area, because that's where it can get a little messy and just look like you're painting something that's completely flat without any sort of dimension to it. Okay, so there's one cell down. Now we've just got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 left. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. We want that a little bit darker. Maybe even a little darker still. Pro tip, I don't know how professional it is, but if you're trying to find, or if you're trying to paint something darker than another area, and it just seems like you're kind of matching the color, instead of getting darker and darker and darker, paint the area above a little bit lighter if you're trying to delineate between the two areas. That can sometimes work just as well. It doesn't have to be like a crazy amount of lighter, but just a little bit lighter. All right. Go back in with this gray. Go in with our sidewall, which is a little bit brighter still. Paint this in nice and easy. get a little bit more white in there. For this particular work that we're doing in these cells, I tend to use a brush that's a little bit drier than other people might. I try to, and by drier I don't mean like I dry out the paint. What I mean is like you have a paintbrush that's like loaded with paint, like that, right? What I do is I try to get as much of the excess paint off the brush as possible. So there's still paint on the paintbrush, but it's a little bit drier, if you will. It's not just absolutely loaded with paint. And I find it actually helps make blending these areas a little bit easier, personally. Make sure that that's lined up and square. And it's not quite, so I'm going to change that angle a little bit. There we go. Like I said, all this detail work can be a little tedious, but I find it worth it in the end. If you put the time in to get it right, at the very least as right as you want it to look, it makes all the difference. Okay, so that's, we're on to the next one. And same process. Just deciding our angles, where things are going. Right now what I'm doing is I'm squaring up the edge at which the balcony doors end to sort of show the depth of the balcony and making sure that those are consistent. Because you want to make sure that those remain consistent as you move down through the blocks. Because again, that'll just add that extra little element of realism to the painting. Now, all that being said, I am by no means any sort of expert on realism with paintings. There's some people that do like hyper realism that is just astounding. This is just my own technique that I've just kind of picked up doing myself, because I am by no means a hyper realistic painter. Those people, the work they do is just astounding. I could look at hyper-realistic paintings all day, every day. I don't think I'd ever get bored of it. I'm just going to clean up the bottom of this balcony. I kind of went over the line a little bit with it. Just going to clean that up slightly. There we go. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. Once the paint's a little bit drier, I might go in and just kind of delineate the space a little bit. Actually, I might just do that now while the paint's still a little bit wet. Just to kind of delineate where the balcony doors are a little better. Yeah. Like so. Then go back in with the darker black. Kind of straighten this line. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. Alright, 2 down, well 3 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to go. So we're getting there. Slowly but surely. And then we can start doing the ones with light in them. That'll be a different adventure. So we put in our introductory colors. Give it a little bit of a highlight. Hopefully I'm not blocking that too much. I'm trying to stay out of the way. That angle's a little bit too shallow for that space. And again, just kind of trying to square up where the balcony door would be. And trying our best to match the angle between the ceiling and the sidewall between both of these sides. You know, make sure that they match. So yeah, this is a lot of very fine detail work that may actually end up getting lost in the shuffle later on. But again, I think it's important to lay this groundwork, and it'll make it a stronger image even after we go back in and abstract it, because you'll have a nice strong base. Even though like this side of the apartment blocks too, like, are more than likely going to be off the edge of the painting once I actually wrap it and stretch it on the stretcher, but it's still worth it. All right, so that's 4. So we're almost halfway there. Almost halfway. We're gonna go back to my kneeling pillow again. And just do the process again. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're almost an hour in, so not too bad, not too bad, not too bad. Okay. So this is the cell where there was a little bit of run over from the paint above, on the balcony above. But that's now fixed because the paint underneath just covered it up. Now, these are definitely going to be shallower. There's definitely going to be a shallower angle between the side wall and the ceiling. So we got to make sure we put that in. Get that correct right after I repaint this little section of the center wall. There we go. Okay, so that looks about right. Yeah, let me back up, like I said, backing up to see. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm just gonna paint this one a little bit more. Make that a stronger. There we go. All right. So back to this. I'm curious if you guys are, if you've had supper, or if you're having supper, or planning on having supper, because I haven't had supper yet. But I was curious, what are you guys eating? I had an old coworker who every single day, it was quite funny, and I liked the conversation, but he would ask you what you had for dinner the previous night. He was always very excited to find out what you ate, and if it was tasty. He's a cool dude. I know myself, God, I think it had to be a couple of months ago now. My girlfriend and I went out to breakfast, and this particular breakfast place had one of the breakfast options. Instead of home fries, you could get tater tots. And I was like, you know what, it's been a very long time since I've had tater tots. Let's have an order of tater tots with this breakfast combo. And I forgot how good tater tots are, to the point where like I am now on a tater tot kick, where I'll just make tater tot bowls, and I'll have eggs with it. Sometimes I'll have like chicken with it. You know, it's really taken hold, to the point where like it's almost like a staple of my diet now. And I'm sure the kick will wear off one day. But for now. It's definitely one of my favorite dishes, and it's probably what I'm going to be having for dinner tonight, to be honest with you. There we go. Alright. It's not looking too bad at all. Make this part of the wall just a little bit darker. There we go. Alright. Move on to the next one. Right after I do that, now we can move on. I'm also curious if any of you are painters yourselves. If you tend to leave a lot of brush strokes in your work, or if you try to kind of buff them out. I know myself, I don't tend to leave a lot of brush strokes in my work. It's never been my style. I really do like seeing other people leave their brush work in, all their brush strokes. It's really visually interesting to me in other people's work, but for myself, I've never been a fan of doing it for my own artwork. Alright, move over here. Start working on this. Ceiling here. Sometimes while I'm working, I'll find areas while I'm working on a particular area where I feel like I could improve it, so I'll just switch over to doing that and forget what I was doing in the area that I was working on originally. Okay, And with this one, we are almost there. We got 4 more to go. All right, now we get the dark black. And after this cell, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash off my brush because I've noticed that some of the paint on the brush has started drying. And we want to try to avoid that, so we will avoid that by washing off our brush. So how are we for time? Just over an hour. All right. Not bad, not bad. And what you'll notice, the way the perspective works is the shallower and shallower the angle on these balconies get, the more and more of the balcony doors that you're going to see. Just because this angle between the wall and the ceiling is going to get shallower and shallower. It won't be a tremendous change, but it'll be present and it'll be very noticeable. I must say, with this stream so far, I'm very pleasantly surprised as to how little paint I've actually managed to get on myself, because usually I have a lot more paint on myself than I do. So it's a good sign. It's a good thing. And it appears like I know it'll appear like we're going over the same stuff over and over again. And that's, I mean, because we are. But also it's just to make sure that we cover all our bases and we're getting everything exactly the way we want it. Because if at the end of the day you got a piece done but you don't really like it, I mean, what was the point? You know? What was the point? Alright. So that takes care of that, I think. So we're just gonna add just a little bit more darkness just right here. There we go. Now we're going to clean off our brush. Again, even though we're using the same colors in the same area, we want to make sure our acrylic paint isn't drying up on our brush. Because you can clean it in real time with rubbing alcohol if it dries too much. It starts to like really harden, but it's just a pain, and why go through that pain when you don't have to? Okay, so now I'm gonna have to kneel down again for these last three. And these bottom two here aren't going to be as detailed. Like I'm gonna put in at least the ceiling and the sidewall, but most of it is probably going to involve the tree line, at least the very tops of the trees. So we won't have to go as in depth with our detail. Actually, I'll just fill that in. Fill that in there. We do want to put at least a little bit of paint just down here in these cells that are going to be almost completely filled with the tree line, just because it'll help with the illusion, because there is going to be space in between some of the leaves, and you don't want just nothing back there. You know, you don't want something that just looks like it's nothing back there. So hence we're just filling that in a little bit. Okay. So now with that, I'm gonna go in here too. Clean that up. Now we'll do all the sidewalls with our lighter color. We need it a little bit lighter. As I mentioned before, acrylic paint does dry quicker, much quicker than, say, oil paint, but there are ways that you can actually sort of stall the drying process with acrylic paint. There's different mediums and different oils that you can add in to actually make them dry slower, so they'll behave a little bit more like oil paint. I don't tend to use them myself because I do like the quick nature of the drying of acrylic paint. I really do like the fact that it dries quick, because it means I gotta make decisions quick. I gotta try to do things faster. Because if I get left with something for a little bit too long, I start to overthink things while I'm working on them. And that's never really any good for anybody. So I do like with acrylic that it is a faster drying medium. So I go, well, you got to make a decision. All right. So now we'll go in with our black, our dark black, and do these last few shadows. And then we move on to creating a little bit of light. There's one. That one actually went pretty quick. I'm surprised. That one went really quick. Another reason why I tend to dry out the brush again when doing these kind of areas, especially small areas, is because I find it's easier to get a straight line when you don't have a bunch of paint on the brush. It's much easier to control in that way. Because globs of paint just kind of like to go where they want to, you know, path of least resistance type stuff. And having less paint on the brush kind of mitigates that a bit. It's also important that, again, if you're working on a piece, even if there's a piece that you're really looking forward to doing, like I am with putting in these lights like this one up here, it's really important that you don't rush. Just take your time with what you're doing. Unless it, of course, like suits your style and the style of the piece to rush it, then by all means go ahead. But me, take my time with it, make sure I get it exactly how I want it, because it's not a race. You know, I do want to try and get to that area, like doing the light areas by the end of the stream, and maybe get like a couple of them in, but you know, if we don't, and I mean we should, just based on the time this is taking, but even if we didn't, it's okay, we'll just grab the next one. And if there is no next one, for whatever reason, then hey, it was fun while it lasted. There we go. We'll just paint that in darker there. And darker here. Just to give that little semblance of the same thing we were doing above. But with much less detail. Oops. There we go. All right, so I'll bring you guys in close again so you can see how that turned out up close. Not in person, but up close. So again, I'll zoom you out first so that it doesn't look as pixelated when I bring the camera in. And there we go. So we got all these other areas filled in. All the areas that are going to remain dark. And now we're going to let there be light. All right. Get the camera where I want it. There we go. Okay, so for this, I'm just going to quickly bring up my reference image so that because there's all sorts of different types of lights that you can do in terms of colors, shapes, temperatures. So we go to Archive and bring up my reference. And we'll zoom that in just a bit. So I think in this one we're going to have a little bit of a more muted light. This one's going to be very bright. I'm going to have like sort of like warm temperature in these two, bright, and then a dimmer one there. Now don't hold me to that because I might forget over the course of painting these that that's what I decided. I'll just clean off my brush here. There's a fruit fly in here. Okay, so we're going to do just a very sort of muted kind of reddish light for this one. So a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of white. Very, very warm. Kind of like this light is far away, far, far away from the door. Or it might be like muted by, say, what do you call it? Like a curtain or something like that, you know? Yeah. We're going to add just a little bit of white to that. And we're just gonna fill that in very faintly. And now we're gonna fill in. I really should have started with this, but that's okay. We're gonna fill in the ceiling and the sidewall. And it's gonna have a little bit of a shade of this light, basically. I know that's the wrong one, but I wanted to just touch something up on that particular one. Right, quick. And just fill that in right to about there. Just like so. And then like the last one, we're going to put like a dark black background around the doorway, around the door frame, just to kind of show that it's there. So this one's going to be slightly not as prominent as the one above it, because it's not as bright a light. Just like so. And again, we're going to square up where that center line on the door is, just to make sure that it stays in line. Because generally you want your buildings to be in square, even if in real life most buildings aren't square. We can we can pretend for the sake of this painting. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some very, very light details. With this area, in terms of, we're going to darken up this kind of corner of it, like so. And then we're going to have a shot, I think a shot of yellow light, now that I think about it. First I'm going to clean off my brush though, because there's too much black on it. Okay, now we'll throw some yellow and red together, make it kind of orangish, but just a little bit of a lighter tone for one particular section. I made the cardinal mistake of not drying off my brush as much as I should have. There we go. Now we'll pick up some of that color and kind of just dab it in here. And it'll extend up and kind of color the space above it, the ceiling. We'll throw some white in there and a little bit more red, just to really sell it. because believe it or not, yellow is actually it's a pretty thin, pretty weak color. Just putting like straight yellow on the canvas. It's not as vibrant as you might think it is. Maybe that's just the yellow hue that I use, but it's probably just the yellow hue that I use. But at the very least, just sort of filling that in. I'm going to mute that just a little bit more with some of that gray. And then I'm going to throw in a little bit of black area, not black, but like darker areas just coming down so that you get kind of the idea that there's probably like a curtain or something in front of this door. And that's why it's turning out the way that it is. There we go. Nothing too crazy, nothing too extravagant, but gets the job done. And we'll just add a little bit of that light color on the side there. Okay, so there's that one done. Which leaves us plenty of time to go ahead. Actually, right after I do this. There we go. Gives us plenty of time to clean off our brush again. And we're going to do a really, really bright light in this cell right there. Yeah. Actually, yeah, we'll do a really bright light here. And then we're going to do a bright light here because this one again is going to be mostly off of the canvas. So we don't want to lose it too much. So I'm going to darken that up a little. We don't want that part to be too bright. Well, we don't want it too dark either. Come on, we gotta baby bear this stuff. Nice and in the middle. Okay. Then we'll do the roof, the ceiling. Just block that in. Like so. A little bit brighter here, just a tad bit. There we go. Now, once again, we're going to clean off our brush so that there's no black on it whatsoever. because we want this to be a really, really bright light. Let's make sure our brush is nice and clean. Like so. And that's nice and dry, which it is. And then I'm actually going to squeeze a little bit of new white paint on the palette, because as you can see, this white paint has a bunch of stuff in it. So squeeze out some new white paint. Like so. Now we've got something that's nice and fresh. And we will block this in. Like so. We want to try and get like a little bit of a haze effect on it as well. And that comes by just feathering the brush a little bit. So, make sure that's lined up. And we kind of haze it out like so. Trying to maintain the brightest part for right in the middle of it all. So we get that in there. And then we brush off the excess paint and then just feather it, like so. And that's going to give us a nice, and we just follow the path of the ceiling and the side of the balcony. Put a little more white paint in there. Just kind of tap it out. And we're tapping now because that paint is so thin in there, feathering it is actually going to pick the paint up off the canvas. And we don't want that. So now we're just kind of dabbing it. And now we're going to wait a minute for that to dry some more. And then we'll go in and do a little bit more. Just a little bit. So we'll just wait for that to set for a second. And then we'll just there we go. There we go. my left thumb is just dipped it in a bunch of red paint. We finally got paint all over ourselves. Never fails. Every single time I paint, I get paint on myself. Just like every single time I play basketball, I end up jamming one of my fingers. Never fails. Again, we're just kind of feathering in, doing a couple of different layers. Trying to be careful and not overworking it, which can happen sometimes. And if you find you're overworking the paint a little bit and it's not being as cooperative as it was, just let it dry and then go back over it. Gotta have some patience with it. Okay. It can be hard to have patience with it, but you just got to be patient. Okay. So now, with that area cleared, now we actually have to put in the door frame. You know, kind of decide where that's going to go. Just like so. And then find that line. Like that. And then trying our best to match the other areas over here. Kind of just measure out where that center post is going to be. There we go. Just like so. And because that light's so bright, I kind of put a little bit of darker paint along the edge of this balcony here. Because with bright light, it would look a little bit darker. Just visually. So, with that done, I am going to go back in there with some white, like some pure white again. So we're going to wash off our brush again. as much of this paint off as possible. Really brush it dry. There we go. And then we're going to grab some of our pure white again and really amp up the brightness in a couple of areas. Dab some of that off.
Get the impression that these people might be having a party, or they've just got some really bright LED lamps.
Or maybe even the light is just on the balcony itself. Who's to say?
You as the viewer get to decide that yourself.
And the end result is just a very bright light. Grab some black. Kind of redo that door frame line again.
Remember, it's your work. You can go over it as many times as you like.
Okay, so that one's done. Then we're going to have another white light, but I think this one is going to be much more muted and have some color to it again with some red and some yellow. Sort of more muted orangish type color.
And you'll see on the side here, I'm just sort of wiping off the excess paint that I don't want on my brush anymore.
But we're doing the same technique as we just did. And now we'll wash off our brush again as we're winding down here. And I think I might actually, I know we marked it earlier, but I think I might actually put a light in here, like a nice, because I want this one to be bright. I think this one I'm gonna make like a very bluish kind of hue, like somebody's watching TV, you know? That kind of glow that you get out of a room when someone's just sitting in there watching TV. And try not to dip my hand in the red paint again. There we go. Yeah, and I think we're going to do that TV thing too, because there's not much blue in this painting yet, and I want some variety. This one I'm actually going to put a little, almost like, just something dark here. I don't know exactly what it is, but
Just to kind of mute this area just a little bit more. Just like that.
and then we'll just darken up this door frame a bit.
At least the corner of it.
There we go. All right. I think it looks pretty good. And I'll bring you guys in closer so you can see kind of what that looks like. So, again, we'll zoom out like so, and then bring you guys in. So, that's what we're looking at here now. So we've got 4 areas where there's light, and then the next time around we'll finish off the other 3 areas, 4 actually, because I'm going to add 1 here, and then we'll finish this part of the apartment building, and then the apartment building, this particular one, will be done. And then we can move on to these other ones, which will honestly have less detail. This one I just wanted to throw in a bunch of detail because I thought it would really make the painting look good. So, but yeah, that's those are our areas of light. And as you can see, there's like a party or something going on in that room. All right, so let's put you back here. And that's what our painting looks like so far. All right, well, again, our time is coming to a close, but I thank y'all for tuning in again. I hope you enjoy what's going on so far, what's been going on so far. Yeah, so next time around, we should be able to finish this entire apartment building. Okay? And then we can start moving on to some other stuff. But again, the next couple of videos is gonna be a lot of like close in detail work. So if you're up for that, you're in for a treat, because that's basically what we're going to be doing. If you like the broader stuff, I mean, I hope you still tune in, but we're going to move on to more broader strokes when we start working with this down here. Because a lot of it's going to be in shadow and there's just going to be like highlights, but we want to define the different shapes and stuff. So, yeah. Thank you again for watching, and next stream will be Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, of course. So, yeah. Hopefully we'll catch you then, and until then, y'all have a wonderful week.